Hi everyone, it is Wednesday afternoon. It means it is time for the ViaMonstra Academy office hours. My name is Johan, Andrew's name is Andrew, and we'll be host for the next hour here. This is a show or episode where you learn about updates, and we also answer questions on everything related to Intune, ConfigMgr, MDT, and everything in between pretty much. And with that being said, let's get going. Hello, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Nice. That's good. All good. I noticed
Good.
you have a slightly different background than last time.
I do. Office hours this week has a new meaning for me, as I think we've mentioned in a couple of episodes here, where I was getting an office prepared in my house, and I have finally started to move in.
Nice. Congrats. Amazing.
Thank you. This sure beats working in the middle of the living room for the last 2.5 years. So this should be a nice improvement, I think.
Yeah, it's quite fitting having an office for office hours, so makes sense. Yeah.
That's what I figured. This was the whole reason I built it.
Oh, you shouldn't have. All right. So what's going on? What's out there?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I picked up this week. Earlier today, I actually have a couple of links I can share if you want to pop my screen up.
I should be able to do just that. Give me a moment, sir. That looks like not my screen.
All right. Yeah, and you could see I was playing around with the new Windows Update for Business reports. That's sort of the renaming of update compliance, but that's not what I was going to show today. I found a couple of interesting things that I think I'm going to look into over the next week. One was Paul Winstanley over at CCM Mentor posted the first steps into Linux management via Microsoft Intune, which I find to be pretty interesting that they added that into Intune finally. And I think maybe not this tenant yet, but I've seen at least one of the tenants that I'm in. I did see the Linux platform show up here already, so that's pretty cool. I'll take that. I don't know how broad the Intune capabilities will be for management at this point. I haven't looked into it too deeply, but the fact that they're adding it in, I think, is a good thing. And then I saw a tweet from Niklas Tinner, I believe is how you pronounce it, created an Intune change tracking Azure Workbook, which I thought was pretty interesting. So this looks like it's basically a way to visualize the Intune audit logs and the events that you have going on in your tenant through log analytics and a workbook. So I thought that was pretty neat. I want to get this into my tenant here pretty quickly just to see what it looks like. But you can see a lot of the audit events come in here, and looks like the different Intune methods that are happening within those events are sort of given a nice overview here, so you can see what's going on in your tenant. Super helpful, especially if you have a lot of admins or a lot of teams in your tenant doing a bunch of different activities. And then lastly, one thing that was top of mind for me is we've got or Microsoft has the technical Takeoff that they're putting on next week over the course of several days. So this is a few days of demos, deep dives, and live Ask Me Anything sessions based around Windows, Intune, and as you said at the beginning, Johan, I think some of the things in between that sort of help glue all of these pieces together. So I had a couple of these sessions that really were standing out to me that I'm planning on joining. Tuesday morning, there's a Windows Update for Business deployment service plus Intune, the latest and greatest session. And then there are a couple of Thursday morning configuration as code in Microsoft Intune. Sounds intriguing to me, as well as what is a policy and why shouldn't I set registry keys. So I think those are a few that I plan on setting some time aside for next week, and making sure I get to them just to see what they have to say. Do you have anything that, I know you're aware this event's going on, Johan, do you have anything that was sticking out to you in particular?
Well, the first one on Tuesday, the autopilot notes from the field, I'm definitely gonna attend that one. And then I believe it was later in the Tuesday, there was a store session. At 11. Just the future. Interesting to see what's on there as well. So definitely those, but probably a few more. So this is like a super long office hours-ish.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it actually looks like they're ending the week with some of their own office hours, which is pretty cool.
That is awesome. I'm happy to see this broad of sessions, or breadth. How do you say it? English. I promise I will learn it at some point. So many different sessions being available. It's good. It's good to see.
No, you got it. I'm with you. I'm happy to see these as well.
All
So
right.
that was those were the things that were top of mind for me this afternoon.
All right. Awesome. Let me gonna disconnect your screen quickly and add this one in. Something new, of course. Take a look at my ISO library at the moment. There were some shiny additions lately. I'm not talking about WinP version 1. It's a very old edition. But Windows 10, where are you? Here we go. Freshly downloaded as of yesterday. ISO is being available both on Visual Studio subscriptions, or My Visual Studio, as well as the Volume License Center, as well as the enablement packages that we were hoping we get from Windows 11, but we only got from Windows 10. So that means if I go to ConfigMgr, I just sync the catalog like literally an hour ago to see if I got it in, and sure enough, it showed up. So those are not showing in normal software updates. They are showing in as usual as a feature update, even though they are not a setup-driven process. So if I search here for enablement, you will find that typed it somewhat correctly. Here we have the feature update for Windows 10 20H2. That was the 32-bit one. This was the 64-bit one through enablement package. So a tiny patch being available. And fun fact, and it was Panu who hinted me on this on Twitter. They probably shouldn't copy and paste all the text all the time, because this one claims that this feature update for Windows 10 20H2 is available for Windows 10 and 1903 or later, which I cannot doubt, because all the other Windows 10 19 something you had to do a full setup exit-driven process to get to. So I think that is like this, and you need to be on Windows 10 to something, probably in the 2021 something, but I will try it out in the week and see what's going on. But this one is at least available here, so that was nice to see.
Definitely.
Let's see what else. As usual, when there is a new version of Windows client something, that means that they are releasing new templates as well. So go in here. The admin templates for Windows 11 22H2 is available for download. And these guys also cover most of the Windows 10 policies that you have in your environment. And we talked about that a few times here in the office hours, like, all right, which template should we sort of standardize on? And that would probably be this template going forward. So good stuff there. yeah, that's pretty much all I had in terms of news. Obviously, it'll be a bit of testing now with the real version of Windows 10 22H2. I only been deploying the Insider Preview before, and that worked well. So I don't expect too many surprises on this one. All right. Do we have any questions, Andrew, coming in?
We do. Ryan asked, he said, hello, Johan. Upgrading Windows 10 to Windows 11, would you rely on ConfigMgr or Intune? Can Intune update drivers after the OS upgrade?
All right. I mean, for feature updates, I'm still a big fan of using ConfigMgr if the customer have it, because as most of you know, when you have a sequence, it gives you a lot of control what you can do before the upgrade, during the upgrade, and after the upgrade. But it doesn't mean that you can't achieve some of that through Intune as well. You can definitely have, for example, a script, a proactive remediation, something in Intune that makes sure to stage drivers onto the machine and modify the setup config file so that when it's actually time to do the feature update, even when driven from Intune, it will pick up those changes. You have these pre and post scripts that you can run. It's basically batch files calling PowerShell scripts typically. So that there is options to get some level of control if you have Intune only in your environment as well. If you don't have ConfigMgr set up, you only have Intune, but still want to use sequences, all hope is not lost. It is possible with some creativity. And I posted of this back it's a long time ago, but if you put your mind to it, you can actually run MDT sequences from Intune as well, because Intune can certainly download that media and initiate the start of that deployment through a script wrapper in a Win32 app, or just the regular run script if you have content stored elsewhere for this. So certainly doable, but I'm a big fan of sequences, big fan of multiple sequences even. I typically have it set up something like this, where we have a validation sequence that we run first on all devices. Purpose is making sure they are ready for the upgrade, making sure they are we cache the content on their hard drive. And then once we verify that the machines are ready, we have an actual upgrade sequence that runs the upgrade. So like the second part of that sequence. But there is nothing, as I mentioned earlier, that prevents you to achieve similar stuff on the Intune platform only. It's just that you have to do a bit of scripting on your own, because there's like no ready-made templates Intune for it. Yeah, that's my take on that one. Is there anything else?
Yeah, we have another question coming in on YouTube. Currently have a primary site with Server 2012 R2 and SQL 2016 with DPs mixed 2012 R2 and 2016. How easy is it to in-place upgrade primary site OS and SQL? Any particular order or gotchas or advice? I can think of one specific blog post we might point to.
Yes, Mr. Jason's blog post in particular. So if it's easy to do an in-place upgrade, well, it's also easy to book a root canal at the dentist. Doesn't mean that it's the best experience that you might have. I typically don't recommend in-place upgrades. I prefer to do a backup and restore to get a clean and pristine system. So rather than upgrading maybe multiple Windows version up to a 2019, 2022, etc., I prefer to do a backup, set up a new VM, same name, similar disk layout, doesn't have to be exact same disk layout, and restore the backup to that VM. That process typically sets you, it takes about 2 days to get it done. And you can expect downtime from the evening, the day before, until maybe lunch the following day to get everything going. But the actual backup restore process is quite quickly. It's usually, if you have to copy away content that can take some time in the environments. So I usually tell customers that the system is going to be down for about 12 hours here at least. So sometimes 18 hours. The post that we refer to is this one here. And Jason really needs to fix the certificates. I mailed him about it, and he says he will, so we'll see. Anyhow, if you search his blog for recovery, this is a classic post on how to do a backup or restore with the purpose of basically upgrading the old OS that is on the machine. The only thing, I mentioned this before as well here, Jason recommends to remove the following roles before doing the upgrade. I don't agree with that one. It's not needed. I can perfectly still be there if you have it on the site server. Most organizations don't, so there's that. But there are some smaller environments where you actually have the site server being pretty much everything. Software update point, management point, distribution point, and that's my take on that one. And we'll of course share these links as usual. For those of you who are new to the platform or new to our office hours, we do share these links up in the Academy. And we also share them on our YouTube channel. So ViaMonstra Online Academy. By all means, while you're there, subscribe and like the post. It would mean a lot to us. And this is where, of course, you can find all the recordings as well. Nice little live session there. We should watch it.
Yeah, definitely. And the prior sessions, there's some good content in there, I'd say.
Yeah. So what I try to do each and every session that we have here, you will find that we are posting the links underneath, usually within a day or two after the live event. All right. Anything else?
Just before we move on, I'd just like to add a little bit of my own personal experience with the in-place upgrade, just in case anyone's still on the fence about doing an in-place upgrade versus a backup and restore. You and I have talked about this several times, Johan, where you may do an in-place upgrade, which I have done in the past, going from 2012 to 2012 R2 to 2016 on the same site server. And each time it seemed to go well until years later, we went to add an application pool to IIS, and turns out through what we believe to be no other reason than something going wrong in an in-place upgrade somewhere, you couldn't add an app pool into IIS. And so if you wanted to do something like a custom web service on the site server, it was impossible to do. And we couldn't find any other reason. So that really made me a true believer of this method. I just like to add a little bit of my own personal experience in there whenever we talk about this. So,
all right. Excellent, sir. Thank you.
Yes. So let's see. We've got another question coming in on YouTube from Matt. I have a question about client settings, the host notification, and how to create and configure the times for this scenario. I have a collection maintenance window between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. All updates and reboots have to be done during this time. The amount of time after the deadline is 4 hours. The final notification is 60 minutes before the device restart countdown. And the end user gets this notification every 30 minutes, and the user can snooze it until the final notification. Mm-hmm. So we have a maintenance window. We need all the updates to install and the reboots to be done during the maintenance window. 4-hour grace period. Final notification is 60 minutes before the device restart countdown. And the end user gets this notification every 30 minutes. with the ability to snooze it until the final notification. Notifications and updates and maintenance windows are complicated, I think. I'd have to give some thought to this particular scenario.
Do you have something you want to share there?
Can share my screen, but I'm really just kind of poking around at the moment.
All right.
So let's see. Anything immediately jump to your mind?
Not other than may leveraging some of the third-party things we have shared a few times here in the session.
Oh gosh, they've come up the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Using post notifications. Through Martin's blog there. But there are obviously settings for it. And I forgot when they were added in. It wasn't too long ago when they put in these restart settings in the mix.
So let's see. And you're referring to these in the client settings?
Yeah.
So
you have the second one from the bottom. That's basically how you flip it on and off.
When a deployment requires a restart, show a dialog window to the user instead of a toast notification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is I can send you that link. Let's see if I can get it in the chat here. This would be the documentation of it. Showing an example as well on how it would look with a toast versus the traditional snooze that has always been there in Software Center. For this specific scenario, I would have to do some testing. There was quite many variants in that question, but it can be a little bit tricky to get right. So we will share that link in the chat with you guys, and hopefully it can help a little bit.
Maybe share this one back out again this week too.
Yeah. Obviously, this one is completely custom, allowing you to do more things that are not included in ConfigMgr in terms of what to customize the experience and also what different buttons you want to add into it and whatnot. Quite elegant solution. All right. Any other questions? We have a whopping 34 minutes to spare. It's funny when you watch the Twitter feed the day of or the day before the office hours and just poke around to see what's going on there. And but it was John Marcum. Yeah, John Marcum just posted a blast from the past that I can probably share.
Yeah,
Just for the fun of it. I'm going to steal the screen back from you for a second.
Okay.
He was visiting Stockholm that day, and it was a while ago. Look a bit more younger then, certainly had more hair then. but this was in the Ice Bar in Stockholm. So it was cool.
That's amazing. I
Yeah.
bet.
You had your cup with a beverage of choice, and it was purely made of ice, and the bar was ice, and the entire room was ice, and yeah, fun to see. Thank you, John. Good memories. Always nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
14 years.
Yeah. Time flies.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right. Anything else out there? We do accept questions, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. We try to keep an eye on the Twitter feed as well, even though it's a little bit challenging, multiple windows and all. Can only focus on so many things at the same time. Have my limitations.
Let's see.
See several reminders in the Twitter feed about remember to accept the new Apple Business Manager agreements for those of you dealing with the mobile devices for Intune.
Feels like the third or fourth time this year.
Yeah. And of course, I've seen tons of different friendly reminders for the technical takeoff next week that we showcased a little bit. So Damien posting a new part of his log analytics series. That one might be worth sharing since there are no questions at the moment. So let me bring that one over to the screen. Let's see here. Yeah, so this one should be an interesting read. Fresh off the press. Well, fresh as of yesterday. I still consider that quite fresh.
Yeah. Pretty cool to see some of the. It seems like there's a lot of stuff coming out with KQL and log analytics, especially in this space. I'm seeing people leverage them more and more and more, it seems.
Yeah, totally agree.
Did I see the other day that there was an update to MSM Point Manager's custom inventory script? Did I see you retweet something about that?
Oh yeah, they made an update. I only saw the update on GitHub, but it was an update to, let's see here, search for inventory. Our friends over at Cloudway, of course, MSM Point Manager, a lot of Cloudway people there. They had, let's see, forgot when the original post was, like in early last year.
Sounds right.
But they did release a new version of the scripts and also the publish link for them to conveniently publish them. Here's the blog post. That's the older one, but it tells you about the solution. And then there should be here on their GitHub. So this would be the so this is the new version published just a few days ago here. So exciting times.
Awesome.
Especially since Intune have very little inventory by default, but adding this, you get much more.
Absolutely. Probably worth mentioning too. There's a follow up blog post on securing this inventory function using Azure functions that was from earlier this year.
Yep, indeed.
So I've pretty much just used that to deploy that at any point now. Use a secure Azure function.
Yeah. I stumbled across an update to what I found interesting. It was actually a fellow Swede, Tobias. Last year, he released a Python script for Intune. Pretty much every automation around Intune you see these days is PowerShell, but this one is actually written in a Python package, and it's used to back up and restore data from Intune. So if you're feeling like brushing up your Python skills a little bit, that might be a good one as well to play around with.
Very cool.
Fun stuff. I love the community's creativity coming up with different things.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
It's interesting to see how many different scenarios we all have in our organizations to solve similar types of problems.
Yeah. Let's see, Rudy was up to something also recently. He's always up to something, but yeah, this was also this week. I can share that one out there. As usual, he's extremely creative with his title of his blog post, but a debug tool for Intune Sync that you can install and use. So, helpful stuff.
Very cool.
All right, any questions out there? Anything we can answer for you? There was a new post from Peter this week, or Peter van der Woude, or Woude. I'm sorry if I pronounced that last name terribly incorrectly. But this one here, that could be a good read as well. Believe there was an AutoPatch session also next week, and the technical takeoff, if memory serves me well.
I believe so. There were a couple of Ask Me Anythings, about an hour's worth of Ask Me Anythings surrounding AutoPatch.
All right. Well, I don't see any more questions in the queue at the moment. Give folks a minute or so. Oh, that was a question coming in. It was from Matt asking on the YouTube channel, what do you guys think about the Windows Takeoff event? I don't know yet. I haven't started, but it looks very promising. I'm delighted to see Microsoft actually arranging something like this, especially if you think about the sessions that were at Ignite. There were not so many sessions that were focused on systems management in general, and there were few like deep dive sessions as well. So I'm happy that they actually took the time and did this event just 2 weeks later, because I kind of miss what I miss the old tech ed days where there were always technical sessions to find as well, in addition to the like roadmaps and other type of similar sessions going on. So I'm happy to see it. It'll be. I bet I will pick up something that I didn't know before.
Yeah, same here. I'm definitely curious how the 30-minute time frame for each session is going to play out. That could go one of two different ways, I suppose. But I'm really looking forward to some of these sessions. Absolutely, as you said, Johan, being able to dive in some of this stuff will be promising. Definitely, good way of putting it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty. So back in the days, they used to have these lightning demo sessions at TechEd, and they were typically 20-30 minutes long. So I
Okay.
think it's a similar approach that I have taken on these, and they were well attended. That was pretty cool to watch.
Awesome. Well, I figured at the very least, I mean, that if they show something off that will hopefully get gears turning and get you thinking about, a potential solution for a problem you have or an improvement you could make with the services you're providing, be some cool stuff.
And obviously for people over in Europe and on the sort of the opposite side of the ocean or Australia, those time slots may be challenging to attend to unless you want to go up like either 1 in the morning and stay through the night, or stay up really late on the afternoon in Europe. I've been told that all these sessions has been recorded or are being recorded, so you should be able to follow up on them later as well. So that's good.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah. The wording was a short while after, and if that's an hour or 24 hours, I don't know, but usually they are pretty quick on getting these posted.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. Community at its finest.
Absolutely.
All right, I don't see anything else coming in, so I think we'll simply wrap up for the day. Everyone joined, asking questions, listening in. Thank you so much for joining. Andrew, thank you for being around as well, and I enjoy or wish the rest of you a great week here. Thank you.
Thank you, Johan. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Thanks for joining.